Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. I have spent 3 cycles alone on this desolate moon, my only company the soft hum of the containment field that shields me from the raw, merciless void beyond. The sky above is a bruised shade of violet, streaked with the faint glimmers of distant galaxies I can never reach again. My people abandoned me here, a punishment for my failures or perhaps a test of endurance, but they did not know one thing: a human was coming. I felt him before I saw him, a vibration in the atmosphere, the faint disturbance of motion through the thin air. His ship cut through the silence, landing on the barren rock with a hiss of displaced dust. My pulse quickened, my throat tightened. I had studied them, humans, in the archives of my world. They were a species of relentless persistence, indomitable will, and untamed passion. My kind regarded them with caution, fearing their capacity to reshape, to conquer, to take what they desired, but I did not fear him. I needed him. The hatch of the human vessel creaked open, releasing a gust of warm, oxygen-rich air that carried his scent, something earthy, something alive. My lungs expanded greedily, savoring the foreign yet intoxicating fragrance. And then he stepped out. He was magnificent, broad shoulders unarmored yet brimming with unyielding strength, a face hardened by experience yet softened by something I did not understand. His gaze swept the desolation before settling on me. Golden eyes, not in color but in intensity, burning, seeing through me as if I were transparent. A tremor ran through my limbs. My instincts roared closer, but I held back. "Who are you?" His voice was deep, a resonance that sent a shiver up my spine. I swallowed hard. My people would say I was exiled, a disgrace, but that was not what he asked. I hesitated, my name feeling foreign on my lips, Saroth. He took a step forward, boots crunching against the loose gravel. His movement was confident, deliberate, not cautious, not afraid. "You sent a distress beacon." Yes, I had, a desperate act, an invitation. "My kind has abandoned me," I admitted, my voice quieter than I intended. "You are the first living being I have seen in a long time." A flicker of something crossed his face, pity, understanding. It was difficult to tell, but it was there. I took a step closer, resisting the trembling in my limbs. The heat of his body radiated against my skin, warmer than my own. My species thrived in the cold, our blood running thick with gelled plasma, but in that moment I craved warmth. "You are human," my voice softened, reverent. "I have read of your kind, of your strength, your persistence." His lips quirked into something that was not quite a smile. "And what have you decided?" I met his gaze and allowed the words to fall from my lips before I could stop them. "That no one can hear me now, take me in your arms." His breath caught. I saw it, a flicker of hesitation, of surprise, before his expression darkened with something else, something primal. But he did not move. The silence between us stretched, thick with unspoken meaning, and then slowly, deliberately, he reached out. His hand, warm, rough, human, brushed against my skin. A shudder raced through me, my body betraying me. "You don't know what you're asking for," he murmured. But I did, and I would make him understand. The moment his fingertips brushed against my skin, a shock traveled through me, a sensation unlike anything I had known before. It wasn't just heat, it was life, raw and unrestrained. My breath faltered, my twin hearts hammering beneath my ribs. He hesitated, pulling back slightly, as if measuring the weight of my request, his gaze sharp and assessing, studied me with something akin to wariness, or was it curiosity? "I don't think you understand what you're asking," he said, voice steady but low. My throat tightened. "I understand more than you think." His fingers flexed at his sides. The wind carried a whisper of dust between us, a faint reminder of the emptiness surrounding this place. The vast nothingness of this desolate moon had been my prison, but now, with him standing so close, it felt different, less hollow, more real. "I know what humans are capable of," I continued, my voice softer now, deliberate. "Your kind does not break. You endure, you adapt, you thrive. You are warm when everything else is cold." His expression shifted just a fraction. "You think we're superior?" I nodded. "I do." A strange sound escaped him, something like a chuckle but weighted with disbelief. "That's not something I hear often." My brow furrowed. "Then your kind is blind to its own strength." He sighed, shaking his head as if he wasn't sure what to make of me. "And what is it you want from me?" I could still feel the residual heat from where he had touched me, a contrast to the cold that had settled into my bones from years of solitude. My people had designed me to be resilient, to endure the harshest conditions, and yet I was tired of being cold. I swallowed hard, stepping closer, almost hesitant. The words felt strange, heavy, exposed. "I want to feel what it is like to be warm." His golden gaze locked onto mine, and for a moment the silence between us felt alive. The air hummed with something neither of us spoke aloud. Then, as if drawn by something neither of us understood, he lifted his hand again. This time, when his palm met my skin, he did not pull away. A sharp breath left me. I hadn't realized how much I had craved this contact, not just presence, not just proximity, but the unmistakable assurance of another being's touch. His fingers traced a slow path over my arm, and I shivered, not from cold, but from the unfamiliar rush of sensation. My species did not experience touch as humans did. Our bodies were designed to withstand extreme temperatures, to function in isolation. We were engineered to survive, not to feel, but I felt this. His warmth seeped into me, the stark contrast against my chilled skin sending tremors through my frame. He exhaled softly, and I became painfully aware of the space, or lack thereof, between us. "Damn," he muttered. "What?" I asked, breathless. He didn't answer right away. His fingers ghosted over my wrist before trailing higher, stopping just below my shoulder. The way he touched me was careful, almost testing, as though searching for some hidden reaction, and I gave him one. A sharp inhale, a tightening in my chest, a pulse in my throat that would not slow. "You feel different," he murmured. "I am different." His lips parted slightly. He studied me the way a man might examine something dangerous, something unknown yet impossible to resist. I lifted my own hand, hesitant but determined. My fingertips brushed against his jaw, tracing the sharp angles of his face. His breath hitched, just slightly, barely perceptible, but I noticed. His warmth spread into my skin, sinking deeper, unraveling the cold that had settled within me for far too long. "What are you doing to me?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. I could have asked him the same. A gust of wind swept across the rocky terrain, carrying a faint scent of metal from his ship. I barely noticed. His touch drifted lower, pausing at the space where my pulse throbbed. His thumb brushed against it, a simple motion, subtle, but it sent a wave of heat rippling through me. I let out a shaky breath. "Is this what warmth feels like?" He exhaled sharply through his nose. "This is just the beginning." A tremor ran through me, not of fear, but of something far more dangerous. A longing that had settled deep within me, awakened now by the presence of this human, by the undeniable pull between us. My people would have called me weak for this, for craving something I was not meant to have, for seeking something outside the cold logic of survival, but I did not care. "I want more," I admitted, voice barely audible. His jaw clenched. He was battling something, I could tell. Then, without another word, he leaned in. His lips brushed against mine, not forceful, not rushed, but deliberate, a test, a question, a silent promise. My mind barely had time to register the sensation before my body responded on instinct, pressing closer, drinking in his warmth as if I could absorb it. It was unlike anything I had ever known, unlike anything I had been designed for. A soft sound escaped me, something between a gasp and a sigh. His hands found my waist, grounding me, anchoring me to the moment, and in that moment I knew one thing with absolute certainty: I was never letting go. His lips lingered against mine, warm and deliberate, stirring something deep inside me. The sensation was unlike anything I had experienced before, electric, consuming, alive. My people did not indulge in such contact. We were taught restraint, conditioned to see touch as unnecessary, a weakness. But now, with his hands steady against my waist, with his breath mixing with mine, I understood. He pulled away just enough to look at me, his golden eyes searching mine. His fingers tightened slightly, as if anchoring himself, as if grounding us both in this moment. I felt my pulse quicken. The cold I had lived with for so long, the emptiness that had been my constant companion, was fading. In its place there was warmth. "You're shaking," he murmured. I barely noticed. My body, unaccustomed to such closeness, trembled in response to the sheer intensity of it. My people did not touch like this, did not seek comfort in another's presence, did not let emotions dictate action, but I was not with my people anymore. I let my hands rise, pressing against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath his skin. His heart beat differently from mine, one pulse instead of two, strong and sure. A steady drum against my palm, a reminder that he was human, that he was unlike me in every possible way. Yet somehow he was the only thing I had ever truly needed. He exhaled, his breath warm against my skin. This is dangerous. The words should have made me hesitate, but they didn't. Nothing about this felt dangerous. Nothing about him felt wrong. I had lived in isolation, trapped in a place where silence was my only companion, where the only warmth came from the flickering artificial lights in my shelter. Now, standing here with him, I felt more alive than I had in years. I tilted my head slightly, searching his face for hesitation, for uncertainty. "Do you want me to stop?" His jaw tightened. A flicker of something crossed his expression: desire, restraint, conflict. He swallowed hard, his fingers flexing against my waist before he let out a quiet breath. "No." The single word sent a rush through me, a strange relief that settled deep in my chest. I did not know what would come next, did not fully understand where this would lead, but I knew I did not want it to end. His grip on me changed, becoming more sure, more deliberate. He pulled me against him, closing the last space between us, and I gasped at the sheer heat of him. It was overwhelming, seeping into me, dissolving the lingering chill in my veins. I pressed my forehead against his shoulder, my breathing unsteady, my thoughts unraveling. His hands moved slowly, tracing the shape of my spine through the thin fabric of my clothing. A shudder rippled through me at the contact, my body reacting in ways I did not fully understand. I had always been cold, my skin carrying the lingering touch of the void, but with him I was burning. "You feel different," he said softly, his voice tinged with something unspoken. I closed my eyes, focusing on the sensation of his warmth seeping into me, on the way his fingers brushed against the base of my neck, sending a wave of unfamiliar pleasure through me. "I am different." His breath hitched slightly as if the word struck something deep within him. He did not pull away. He did not stop. Instead, he leaned closer, his lips brushing against my temple in the lightest of touches. A soft sound escaped me, a sigh, a plea, a whisper of longing. I had spent so long convincing myself that I did not need this, that I could survive without the presence of another, without the comfort of touch, without the warmth of another body beside mine. But now I knew survival was not enough. Living in isolation, existing without purpose, without connection, was a fate far worse than death. I felt his heartbeat again, steady and strong, grounding me in the moment. I wanted to memorize it, to carve this sensation into my very being so I would never forget it. His fingers tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his gaze. I could see the tension in his features, the silent war he was fighting with himself. "This isn't just about warmth, is it?" he asked. I hesitated, my breath catching in my throat. No, it wasn't. It had never been just about warmth. "It's about you," the confession slipped from my lips before I could stop it. "I have studied your kind. I have admired your strength from afar, but I never understood it until now. You are more than just warmth, more than just survival." I swallowed hard, the weight of my words pressing against my chest. "You are life." Something in his expression shifted, something deep and undeniable. His thumb brushed over my lower lip, his touch achingly gentle. "You shouldn't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm the only thing in the universe that matters." I held his gaze, unflinching. "But right now you are." His breath caught. For a long moment he said nothing, his eyes searching mine, as if looking for something he wasn't sure he would find. Then slowly he lowered his head, pressing his lips to mine again. This time there was no hesitation. It was real, unguarded, filled with something neither of us dared to name. His grip tightened, his hands pressing against the curve of my back, holding me as if I might disappear. A part of me feared that this moment would slip through my fingers like sand, that I would wake up and find myself alone once more. I refused to let that happen. I clung to him, letting my body mold against his, letting the heat of him chase away the ghost of the cold that had lived within me for so long. I did not know what came next, but I knew one thing for certain. I would never let the cold claim me again. His breath was uneven, his heartbeat a steady rhythm beneath my fingertips. The warmth of his skin seeped into mine, driving away the lingering traces of cold that had been my constant companion. Every sensation was new, intoxicating, overwhelming in a way I had never anticipated. My kind did not experience such intensity, did not allow themselves to be swept away by the pull of another's presence. Yet here I was, dissolving in the space between us, drawn to him in a way that defied logic. I had spent so long surviving, so long convincing myself I did not need anything beyond the barest essentials. Shelter, sustenance, silence. I had been wrong. His hands traced the curve of my back, his touch careful, deliberate. I could feel the restraint in him, the hesitation woven between his movements, the silent battle waged within him, yet he did not pull away. He held me as if I mattered, as if I was something worth holding on to. I let my fingers explore, tracing the unfamiliar contours of his form, the solidness of him, the undeniable presence that had shattered the solitude I had grown accustomed to. There was no fear in me, only the quiet certainty that I did not wish to be alone again. He exhaled sharply, his breath fanning across my skin, and I shivered, not from the remnants of cold, but from something else entirely, something deeper, more profound than I had words for. "Tell me why," he whispered. I knew what he was asking. Why him? Why now? Why had I reached for him in the dark, abandoned the barriers I had carefully built around myself? I closed my eyes for a brief moment, allowing myself to feel before answering. "Because you see me." His fingers tightened slightly against my waist, a silent acknowledgement of the truth between us. My kind did not connect. We existed alongside one another, never truly together. Bonds were superficial, interactions limited. Even in our greatest moments of unity, there was always distance, always a carefully maintained separation. Humans were different. They felt deeply, lived fully, allowed themselves to be consumed by emotion without fear of its consequences. It was their greatest strength, their most dangerous weakness, and yet, standing here wrapped in his warmth, I envied them. His hand cupped my face, fingers brushing against the delicate ridges along my temple, one of the few outward signs of what I was. He did not flinch, did not withdraw. Instead, he traced the unfamiliar shape of me with a quiet reverence that sent a shudder through my core. "You think too much," he murmured. I released a breath I had not realized I was holding. "I have spent too much time with my thoughts." His lips curved slightly, but the amusement did not reach his eyes. There was something else there, something unspoken, a weight pressing against him as surely as it pressed against me. The silence stretched between us, heavy yet comfortable, filled with meaning that did not require words. Then, slowly, his forehead rested against mine, his presence grounding me in a way I had not known I needed. I allowed myself to sink into the moment, to let go of the rigid control that had governed my existence for so long. His fingers brushed against the sensitive skin at the nape of my neck, sending a ripple of sensation through me. I leaned into him, letting the warmth of his touch anchor me, letting the steady beat of his heart guide my own. I did not know what tomorrow would bring, did not know if this fragile connection between us could survive the weight of our differences. But for now, in this quiet, stolen moment, I belonged to him. His breath steadied as he held me close, the heat between us chasing away the remnants of isolation that had clung to me for so long. My hands traced the contours of his back, feeling the strength beneath his skin, the quiet power he carried so effortlessly. There was no hesitation in his presence, no uncertainty in the way he remained near. My kind had always moved with calculation, every action carefully measured, every bond formed only out of necessity, yet here he stood, touching me not out of obligation, not for survival, but because he wanted to. The realization settled deep in my chest, unraveling something I had locked away long ago. His fingers slid down my arms, gentle but firm, anchoring me further in this moment. I had known touch in its most practical form, medical examinations, tactical maneuvers, the occasional grip of authority. But this was something entirely different. There was no urgency, no demand, only the quiet insistence of warmth meeting cold, a connection forming where none had been before. I tilted my head, studying the sharp angles of his face, the depth in his golden eyes. They reflected something I couldn't quite name, something human yet universal. He was watching me as if searching for answers, as if trying to understand why I had reached for him at all. "You don't have to be alone anymore," he said, his voice low, steady. The words struck something deep inside me. Loneliness had been my companion for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to exist without it. It had been woven into my very being, a quiet shadow that followed me through every empty corridor, every silent night. I swallowed hard. "I don't know how to be anything else." His expression softened, and his hand rose, fingertips brushing along my jaw in a touch so gentle it sent a shiver through me. "Then let me show you." My breath caught. The offer was simple, spoken without hesitation, yet it carried more weight than anything I had ever been given. He did not ask out of obligation, nor did he expect anything in return. This was what set him apart, what made his kind so different from mine. Humans did not measure their affections. They gave freely, recklessly, without knowing if they would be met with the same in return. It was their greatest strength, and it terrified me. I did not know if I could be like him, but I knew that I wanted to try. Slowly, hesitantly, I let my fingers slip between his, feeling the contrast of his warmth against my own cooler skin. He did not flinch, did not pull away. Instead, he tightened his hold, grounding me once more. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt safe. His touch remained steady, a quiet reassurance against the uncertainty twisting inside me. I had spent so much time convincing myself that solitude was a necessity, that it was safer to remain distant, untouched, uninfluenced, yet here, with his warmth pressing against me, his breath feathering across my skin, all those carefully constructed beliefs felt fragile, as if they could crumble at any moment. I could feel the rhythm of his heart through our closeness, a steady, unwavering pulse that contrasted with the uneven beat within my own chest. My kind did not rely on such physical proximity, did not seek comfort in another's presence. We were efficient, logical, structured, and yet in this moment none of that mattered. He studied me with an intensity that made it impossible to look away. His gaze was not calculating, not measuring me against expectations, but simply seeing me for what I was. I had never experienced such openness before, had never been regarded as something more than a role to be filled, a function to perform. The realization sent a quiet tremor through my frame. His fingers tightened slightly around mine, grounding me, as if sensing the storm within my thoughts. "You're overthinking again," he murmured, amusement lacing his voice. I exhaled slowly, releasing a fraction of the tension coiled inside me. "It's difficult not to." A slight smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "Then don't." As if it were that simple, as if I could undo years of conditioning with a single decision. But perhaps, just perhaps, I could try. I let my focus shift away from the endless spiral of thoughts and into the moment itself. The warmth between us, the way his presence wrapped around me like something tangible, the quiet way he waited, unrushed, patient. It was new, unfamiliar, but not unwelcome. His free hand brushed along my arm, trailing down until it rested lightly against my waist. There was no urgency in his movements, no demand, only a quiet invitation, an unspoken reassurance that I was not alone in this. I hesitated for only a breath before allowing myself to lean into him. The sensation was unlike anything I had ever known, not merely physical but something deeper, something that hummed beneath the surface and settled into my very being, a connection not forced, not required, but chosen. I could feel his heartbeat against me, a steady rhythm that matched the slow rise and fall of his breath. It was mesmerizing, grounding in a way I had not realized I needed. "You're not used to this," he observed, voice gentle. I shook my head. "We do not connect in this way." His brow furrowed slightly, curiosity flickering across his features. "Then how?" I hesitated, searching for the right words. "We exist together but apart. We function as a unit, but emotions are secondary. Bonds are not necessary for survival." A shadow passed through his gaze, something thoughtful, something almost sorrowful. "That sounds lonely." I had never thought of it in such terms before. It had simply been the way of things, an accepted truth woven into the fabric of my existence. But now, with the contrast of his presence before me, it did feel lonely, a quiet, aching kind of solitude I had never acknowledged until this moment. "I didn't know it could be different," I admitted softly. His thumb brushed over the back of my hand, a simple touch that sent warmth radiating through me. "It can be," he said, voice barely above a whisper, "if you let it." Something inside me shifted, subtle but undeniable. For the first time, I considered that perhaps I did not have to return to the life I had always known, that perhaps another path existed, one where connection was not a weakness, where feeling was not a flaw. His expression remained open, patient, giving me the space to decide for myself. There was no pressure, no expectation, only the quiet assurance that if I chose to stay, he would not turn me away. And for the first time, I did not want to run. The air between us remained still, charged with something unspoken yet undeniably present. His warmth had settled into my skin, lingering even in the absence of motion. I could feel the steady rise and fall of his breath, the rhythm of his presence wrapping around me, refusing to be ignored. It was grounding in a way I had never experienced, something that tethered me to this moment rather than the endless expectations that had always dictated my existence. I had been conditioned to believe that proximity was unnecessary, that attachment was inefficient, and yet, as I stood here wrapped in his quiet presence, I felt a pull towards something I did not fully understand. He was different from me, so human, so effortlessly open in ways that my kind had never been. There was no calculation in his gaze, no expectation of repayment for his warmth. He was simply there, and that alone was enough to unravel everything I had once held as truth. His hand, still resting against my waist, was careful but unwavering. The steady pressure of his fingers grounded me, a silent promise that he would not withdraw unless I asked him to. I did not want him to. His voice, low and steady, broke the silence. "You don't have to say anything." The simplicity of his words sent something warm curling in my chest. He was giving me space to process, to decide what I wanted without interference. My kind would never have done the same. There would have been questions, analysis, a demand for justification, but he only waited, patient and sure, as if he had all the time in the world to let me find my own answer. I shifted slightly, just enough to press into him without fully realizing what I was doing. His grip firmed in response, subtle but undeniable, as if acknowledging the choice I had made without needing to voice it. The silence stretched between us, not empty but full. His presence was a quiet hum against my senses, a steady, solid force that refused to fade into the background. I was used to solitude, to the cold echo of my own thoughts filling the void, but here, with him, the silence felt different, not lonely, not hollow, but something else entirely. His free hand rose slowly, his fingertips tracing along my arm, feather-light but deliberate. The sensation sent a quiet shiver through me, unfamiliar but not unwelcome. It was so human, this act of touch, of comfort offered without demand. I had observed it before but never experienced it, never allowed myself to be part of it until now. I exhaled softly, barely more than a breath, but he seemed to notice. His fingers stilled for a brief moment before continuing their slow, careful path. He was learning me as surely as I was learning him. There was something in that realization that settled deep, something unspoken but profound. "You don't have to be afraid of this," he murmured. Afraid, the word lingered, curling through my thoughts. Was that what this was, fear? Or was it something else, something far more complex? I had spent so long believing that emotion was a burden, that to feel was to expose weakness. But this was not weakness. This was choice, a conscious decision to reach for something beyond survival. I did not know what tomorrow would bring, did not know if this fragile thing between us could withstand the weight of our differences. But for now, in this moment, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I did not want to be alone anymore.